Good evening from Scampton in Lincolnshire. Well, as anyone that watches this show or listens to this on the radio knows, I've been campaigning for the last 3 years, saying that the flood of young men that crossed the English Channel was beginning to put intolerable pressures on our communities. What we know is that over 450 hotels have been filled up with these young men all over the country. And so part of the government's new plan, along with its ambitious scheme for Rwanda, along with hoping the European Court of Human Rights allow us to deport people who I don't think should have come here in the first place. Part of the new plan was to have migrant detention centres in former military bases. That, the government believed, would be far less controversial. Until we learnt just a few days ago that this would affect RAF Scampton. Now, Scampton, for those that don't know, it was opened up by the Royal Flying Corps in 1916, but in World War II, this became the home. And in fact, 80 years ago this week, Guy Gibson established 617 Squadron, an elite squadron that on the night of the 16th and 17th of May 1943 launched the raid on the dams, Operation Chastised. Of course, in our immortal memory, mostly because, to be fair, of the Dambusters film and the theme music. It is very, very much a rich part of our cultural history. Worth noting that 617 after that went on under Leonard Cheshire later in the years to do some very remarkable things. But all of this was flown out of RAF Scampton, and even in the post-war world, Scampton was a very, very important place. Vulcan bombers flew from here, including one that went down and bombed the runway at Port Stanley in the Falklands War of 1982. And of course, this has been for many, many years the home of the Red Arrows. But as all of you know, we're running down the size of our armed forces, and that has meant that in 2022, Scampton stopped being an RAF base. There had been, I think, a very good local plan to keep the runway open, to build hotels, to have a heritage centre remembering those incredible deeds that those men did back in the 1940s, and indeed that men and women have done ever since, and to have a big tech park built around it. A plan that said maybe up to £300 million of investment could come into an area that needs levelling up. But to find out that the Home Office actually want this to become a migrant detention centre, they've advertised for jobs already, that they're quite happy to kick it a touch the business plan. I think this is dreadful for this local community and, frankly, an act of cultural desecration. I do not believe this should be allowed to happen. I've put my name to a petition, over 20,000 people have. And this is cross-party, because actually the petition has been put forward by somebody who intends to stand for the Labour Party at the next election. So there is no party politics in this whatsoever. This is about jobs and money for a local community in rural Lincolnshire, and it's about preserving our historical and cultural heritage for generations to come. So my question, my debate tonight with my guests is, can Scampton be saved?